Hey everybody, and welcome to BacklogBusters, where normally I'm playing through a game for the very first time based off suggestions that y'all have given me. But today I'm doing something a little bit different, because believe it or not, there are some games I have finished, and I'd still like to talk about those, especially ones that are maybe lesser known or I don't hear people talking about. So I'm hoping to start a kind of side series here that's going to be covering games I just have really fond memories of and I want to talk about. So the first of those games is Custom Robo. So kind of in the spirit of Armored Core 6, where it's a game that you collect and customize robots, and because I've been playing a lot of Gamecube games recently, so this kind of sprung to mind, I want to talk about what grabbed me in 2004, which is mainly the robots. Metabots, I feel like, was a big thing around this time, maybe just in my household. And then also the fact that it's an action RPG, so you don't have the turn-based battles that I'd done a lot of in Pokemon. You actually got these big action-packed battles, which seemed really interesting to me. And then again, it has that collect-em-all style of you getting on the individual parts, all the different frames for your robots, kind of building them out, which is very addictive and kind of in the wheelhouse of games I was playing around that time. The other thing that sold me is that it has a multiplayer mode in addition to the long single-player mode, which sold me on a lot of games at the time because I wanted to get the bang for my buck. I was only getting a game after saving up money for months and months, or at, a holiday or a birthday or something like that. So I had to be very particular. Did it have everything that when friends came over, it would get some use, and then when I'm home alone, it would get some use too. And it has that. It has same screen multiplayer, 4 players, and so that really sold me on this at the time. One of the things I want to do differently about this series is to not replay these games. I feel like that takes away from time I could be spending playing new games, new experiences that y'all have recommended. So I'm just going to play through these for the first couple hours to remind myself of what I liked the first time I completed these games. What held up, what maybe doesn't hold up, and then talk about that all, and maybe give you a light recommendation, but these aren't going to be full reviews. More reminiscing with hopefully something that gives you an idea of would this game be for you. So with this one, let's talk about what held up. The first thing is just, it's a lighthearted, simple RPG, and around this time I was playing a lot of Pokemon, so something too in-depth probably would have scared me away, and I don't think this is going to scare anyone away with how simple it is. It's not bad in any way, but it is very genre typical, I'd say, in that you wake up in your bed late for you going to apply for a job, basically steal a custom robo, and they just say, fine, keep it. It's not as much wanting to be the very best like Pokemon. It is you building up your crew of bounty hunters rep as you go around and solve issues around the city. Like Pokemon, that every part of the world seems to have some Pokemon nearby doing something for the people around them, Custom Robo's largely the same. There are schoolyard fights that also happen with Custom Robos, domestic disputes that are solved with Custom Robos that you need to go break up. Nobody's laying hands on each other or having any real fights in this game. It's all through these Custom Robos. And you kind of have this Coliseum that I'm still a little fuzzy on because I thought I remembered later in the game you battled outside of this virtual Coliseum only in your heads, but when you win a battle, it will knock the opponent out, which just seems dangerous. Something about these robots is not safe for the kids and adults that are using these. Even the police force is using these custom robos to stop criminals because it knocks them out cold so they can be arrested afterwards. And much like the Pokemon games I was playing at the time, it also has that collect-em-all style, which was ingrained in me at a very young age, so a lot of the games I really enjoy also have that feature. You kind of start with the frame of the robot. You can get more lumbering, larger robots that are slow moving but can take more damage, and then you've got kind of the more nimble, spindly robots. So changing out that frame kind of change your base stats. And then you can also have your wrist-mounted weapons. You have bombs you can shoot out that are kind of lobbed shots, and then you also have these tracking kind of mice robots, shark robots, I'm not sure how to describe them, that will go around cover and try to flank another robot. And then you also have your boosters and feet, and those all are parts you can change out to customize the feel of your robot and whether they're slow and beefy or if they're really fast but can't take a lot of damage. In my hazy memory of this game, I thought that every time you fought a battle and won, you got to pick a single part from that robot and take it for your own. But that's not the case. You're actually building up what seems like a secret XP bar, and as that builds up, you'll gain new parts that'll be discovered. A lot of the time, this does seem to coincide with someone you just fought and getting that part, but it's more hazy that it's not one for one every time. These will show up in these kind of part terminals, you will retrieve those, but they're all virtual data, so you're not taking them from someone. The one nice thing is every time you go into a battle, you see the opponent's robot, so you can visually tell what parts they're using, and they're pretty visually distinct, or at least the look of the part will give you an idea of if it's a really powerful part, or a really weak part, or light part, or anything like that. So it does have a kind of aspect of preparing for any upcoming battle. Granted, if you don't have the parts, like you don't in early game, you can't really do much customizing. You go in with your stock robot and maybe change out the 2 or 3 guns you have. The other thing that I thought still held up and is very unique for the RPG genre is just anytime you go into the battle, you are fighting in these active arenas, jetting around, dodging, shooting, launching rockets, kind of lobbing bombs, and all this that feels very out of place in the RPGs that at least I've played. And it's still really fun to do. It does remind me of the game Power Stone for the Dreamcast, which I hadn't played until very, very recently when I got a copy. Because you're juking around cover, you're launching rockets from above, you're dodging out of the way. It's very action-packed. It feels a little like a fighting game in the way that you can kind of get juggled and knocked down, and you've got these multiple rounds that you kind of play out. But it feels very unique for an RPG, and that's what, again, really drew me to this game, and I think it's still very fun today. Now, what didn't hold up? The story is extremely tropey. It's kind of charming in how simple it is, and if you're going in looking for a big, great story, I don't think that this is it. Maybe there were some twists I'm forgetting later on down the road. It is very much, you're kind of the chosen kid that is gifted some special things from your dad that's been missing for who knows how long, and you get this special robot and you seem to be better than everybody else and you kind of quickly shoot up the ranks. So it's very much got that style. And the character portraits for these characters are just so odd. I don't think they look great. Sure, they're a little charming, they're very nostalgic for me, but there's some things in this game that don't feel nearly as thoughtful as the robot designs or the combat in there. So again, the story mode is not going to blow anyone away, but it is a fun thing that brings you battle to battle and puts you up against more and more challenging foes. The one thing about the combat that I kind of forgot about and that doesn't hold up great, again, I could be missing something because I'm only replaying the beginning, but it did trigger some memories that I'd stored away of this, is that it seems like one of the main strategies of this game is to kind of overwhelm your opponent to the point where they get knocked over or staggered. They'll fall to the ground and you can basically get a bunch of free shots in where they can't move or react in any way. There's a limited window to do that, and then they'll stand back up, have a couple frames, seconds of invincibility, and then they're back in the battle. The same thing can happen to you with barely a second's notice. It was odd to see this early in the game that you can just get juggled and staggered to death and just taken out extremely quickly, and there's not a lot you can do about it if you didn't dodge at the right time. So maybe this all bubbles up to customize better robos, but early in the game you don't have a lot of parts to choose from, and there are some enemies that will completely destroy you, and it seems more based on chance than really skill. But that may grow as the game goes on, and I'm forgetting some higher level of play here. It was really fun to go back to Custom Robo for these first couple hours and just a very nostalgic experience, but I will admit, it's definitely going to get repetitive because I could already kind of see that on the horizon playing these early hours, and yeah, it's lacking in story as well, but I do think it's a really unique series of customizing these robots down to every single piece. And sure, there are action RPGs that go into an active state when you enter battle, but you're customizing a sword, some chainmail, maybe some boots that don't give you a new ability each time. And each part on these robots gives you a new attack or a new type of boost or a new bomb to lob. It is a very unique game. It's a cool oddity. You probably shouldn't rush out to go play it, but it is something that I'd love to see Nintendo and the developer of this, Noise, maybe revisit in the future, because I feel like it's got a ton of potential with how popular those Pokemon games are, those collectathon games are, and more that we're seeing games move away from, at least some of them, the turn-based RPGs and go to more of an action RPG style. And this is something that really stands out, especially with the multiplayer that I don't see in a lot of action RPGs, the option to go into 4-player multiplayer and customize your robots to pit against each other. And sure, a friend of yours is coming in with no experience on how these parts work and building an awful robot that's going to get destroyed, but if you actually knew about the game and both went into it customizing your robot, I could see it being a lot of fun, and again, something unique to this genre. Now, one of the interesting things about Custom Robo is this isn't the first game in the series, which I only found out very recently. I kind of assumed this game was a one-time experiment that never went anywhere, but this is technically the 4th game in the series. There were 2 games on N64, the first game, Custom Robo, and then later a V2. And this one added 4-player multiplayer, more parts, more things to do, and both those early ones also have a full story mode that you can go through. Granted, they're both in Japanese, and I don't read Japanese, but the first game does have a localization patch that you can apply and play some of the game there. It seems largely kind of the same setup of you having a robot and going to battle, but both of these seem more tournament-based, that there's less of the kind of day in the life of the person in this Custom Robo world, and more of you trying to be the very best. But I still appreciate that even in the first game and second game, they still have a story to draw you through, which I think is definitely better than nothing. And then there's the GBA version, which goes for a side-scrolling battle system, because the GBA doing these 3D graphics I could see being a stretch. But that even has a story mode and kind of tournament to draw you through the game. But all three of those games were Japan only, and then we got the version and Europe got the version on the Gamecube called Custom Robo. But the US did get another Custom Robo game, which I never knew about and feel awful for not buying, because maybe my purchase could have kept Custom Robo alive. This game, Custom Robo Arena, is very similar to the Gamecube game in that you are going through a story mode, you're kind of trying to be the very best. It seems more similar to games 1 through 3 in the kind of tournament structure, but it seems to have more story around it with distinct characters and you kind of moving to a new place, starting in a new school, and learning about these robo clubs and kind of going through the ranks there. So I'm very interested to play more of this game, and again, I feel awful that another Custom Robo game actually came to the US and I just had no idea about it after loving the Gamecube version at the time. I just wish that Nintendo and the developer Noise would give this series another chance, because they only gave it 2 chances outside of Japan. And there's no easy way to get these games or play these games today, with the Gamecube version going up in price and you needing a working Gamecube, and kind of the same for the DS version. What's kind of more salt in the wound is that the N64 online service for the Nintendo Switch in Japan has Custom Robo V2 on it. So you can play 4-player multiplayer with friends through that service, but we've got nothing here, which is a little disappointing. And even just a simple port of the Gamecube version or of those N64 games translated would be great to see, just to have more people experience the series, because I do feel like it's a little bit of a hidden gem, a little unheard of, and does have some unique features even if it isn't going to blow everybody away. But that's all I've got to say about Custom Robo for today. Did you like this format? Would you like to see me reminisce over more games that I've completed in the past that maybe are more hidden gems or things I just don't hear people talk about? Let me know in the comments below, and if you'd like me to get back to just playing only new games and new experience, let me know that too, and suggestions for those. I promise I am working on more videos on games I've never played before. I'm just trying to play some longer ones, and I'm finding I'm very bad and slow at completing JRPGs, if that's any hint at what's to come. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.